But the reason we paint such a vivid picture here of where you came from, what you're doing now, what your experiences are, and how you feel about things is because I think it's the perfect culmination of what you've been doing with sharing with this America's 250 celebration, because all of these things that you talked about, convening, leadership, self-starting, and, obviously your experience in the military as well, and your experience with the Veterans Coalition really kind of leads itself to you being kind of the perfect candidate to be our fearless leader in this space. So as much as you might say, wow, am I the right person for this? I can tell you, you're the perfect person for this. And it's been awesome. So you've had a few community leaders approach you and say, hey, Matt, we want you to head up this thing. America's 250 is this year. Yeah. Can you get it started? Can you pull together some folks? And what does that celebration look like? So for those who are unaware, you can join us July 4th, and let's hear a little bit more about what we're doing with America's 250.
Yeah, so, man, I am so honored and so excited about this. I'm at an interesting age where I remembered 1976, and I scrambled to try to find a picture because a person that I knew years and years and years ago, I mean years and years, like 40 years ago, Julie Hyatt from the Legacy Center.
Oh, yeah.
Julie had mentioned, I knew Julie when we were little. She had mentioned that she thought her mom still had a picture of me and her brother in our Uncle Sam hats and our little red, white, and blue Oshkosh Begosh overalls in these parades and stuff that we were doing in 1976, right? And so I do remember, I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember it. And that's a really cool place to be in as I look at America's 250 and I look at what a milestone this is and what an honor it is for us to be alive at this time, for one thing, and to be able to participate at a really intimate level with this. So, the idea is going back to 1976 and coming, now full circle 50 years later, we really want to create something that people will remember 50 years from now. So the people that are 10, 12, 15, 20 years old, what they experience today, when this community celebrates America's 300, will they remember what we did this year? And that was always the driving force. If you remember back to that very first brainstorming session where we just had the big, huge whiteboard and we said, let's dream.
Yeah.
Let's really just get the pen out and just put all down. And I have a picture of that whiteboard and all the ideas that came out that day. And I will always treasure that 90 minutes of just free ball, ideas being thrown out there. But it always came back to what will be memorable. What will be memorable and what will be impactful for people today, especially in the decisive times that we live in.
Yeah, and it's so exciting to just think about people being able to come together for a common thing. And, people vote differently. People have different religions. People come from totally different backgrounds. But is there a way that we can kind of rally around and celebrate around one specific thing? And the Declaration of Independence is one of the most profound things ever written on the history of this planet, if you ask me. Mm-hmm. And I know you're kind of a historian yourself, and looking at some of the lessons you want people to take away are some things that they might not know around the Declaration of Independence. You've taught me some things even. So what are some of those things you're hoping people walk away with?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, the author of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. And, there's always controversy around these public figures and, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, how they live their lives. We can scrutinize and, we can do all that stuff just like we do with our leaders today, right? But when you look at their role in these things, I think there's a really impactful way to look at the vision that they had and what can we learn from that vision. So 2 years prior to 1776, Thomas Jefferson, at 31 years old, had written a summary review of the rights of British America. And, this was a writing at that time that was just rocked, the colonies. He was so young at that time and so not part of the political climate that he was not allowed to attend he was not allowed to attend Congress.
Yeah.
So he had that letter delivered to Congress on his behalf. And that was really the start of Thomas Jefferson becoming who he became. When those guys got in that room, Continental Congress.
Yeah.
When they got in that room and they read this letter and they were like, wow, this is profound. And it happened at the same time as the Boston Tea Party. So you've got the Boston Tea Party, you've got the colonies rebelling against Great Britain, but they didn't really have a focus of what that rebellion meant or what they wanted it to look like.
Right.
And this was the first letter that kind of said, hey, listen, this is a vision of what this might look like. So 2 years later, as he's now a part of Continental Congress and five guys were chosen to lead up that writing of the Declaration of Independence. And so the story goes, these two guys, John Adams and Ben Franklin, were two of the other guys in that group. They're much, much older than Thomas Jefferson, much more accomplished in their political careers and leadership and things like that. But they all looked at Thomas Jefferson and said, you're the guy. You're the guy that can write this. And so he sequestered himself in a room for a few days and he knocked this thing out. And then ultimately that group, pared it down and they kind of redrafted it. They pulled some paragraphs out that were maybe a little bit more aggressive than they wanted to be in this document. But that's how the Declaration of Independence came to be.
It's going to be so much fun, too. We're going to be right outside of Dow Diamond, in between kind of the East End building and Dow Diamond. And I just want to shout out everything that the Michigan Baseball Foundation has done to be a part of this. And then also Three Rivers as well, because ultimately we're going to have a 50-foot tall Declaration of Independence that community members will be able to sign. And what are kind of the hopes for that specific event?
Yeah. So that idea of having a physical representation of the Declaration of Independence, when we talked about we need something for people to sign, right? Because one, when you sign something, there is a psychological connection to you signing your name to something. And so, that idea came out of it. And then the idea of it being larger than life. And we're like, well, how big can we possibly make this? And so literally I get on the phone with McKay Press and I'm like, can you make a 50-foot tall Declaration of Independence? Can you print that? And they're like, we can. And I was like,
can it withstand elements?
Done. I'm like, done. That is done. We got to have this. We got to bring this to the people. And then, shout out to Bill Stavropoulos. The very first thing that he asked me was, is that in the Guinness World Book of Records? Can we get in the Guinness World Book of Records for the biggest recreation of the Declaration of Independence? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know how to research that. But going back to the signing, going back to having it there and the visual presence, and going back to unity that you spoke of earlier, the idea here is all the stuff we're going to do is fun. The 4th of July is fun. There will be cookouts. There'll be fireworks. There'll be all this. It'll be fun. What we want to achieve is a unifying, significant thing that people can come down, they can look at this larger-than-life document that they probably honestly haven't given much thought about since they were in high school and history class. Look at this thing, pick up a Sharpie, put their name on it, and signify the fact that, just like you mentioned, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how you vote. It doesn't matter what your belief systems are. It doesn't matter where you're raised. It doesn't matter what your annual salary is. That's your document.
Yeah.
That belongs to you. The Declaration of Independence belongs to us. And I think we have to get back to a place where we own that, where we own that idea that is our document. And this is how it came about. And we can still have those ideals today, 250 years later.
No matter what the background is, that history is going to bind us together. Mm-hmm. And such a defining moment for our country. And I think we're in our own defining moment of our country right now, whether or not we want to call it out specifically or not. We are. We're in a very defining moment for unity. We're in a very defining moment for how we interact with one another. I think we're in a defining moment for neighboring. Yeah. I think all of this is a component of why an event like this is so important, just to remind us, hey, we're all together here and we can pull for one another. So also with this event, there's a public reading component of this. And I think that's what makes this so great, is because you have so many different people coming together to actually celebrate this, but also read it as well. So what can people expect from that portion?
Yeah, if you remember back to that brainstorming session, one of the big things that came out of that was this has got to be representative of everything our city, county, and area has and has been a part of for 250 years. And so as we started to list off who are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders in our area? And, you know, it's boom, 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 Saginaw Indian Chippewa tribe and kids and adults and city and county and Coleman and Bullock Creek and Sanford and, you know, all of these things. It developed into a really cool list of people, and we're actively making those calls right now. And then what will end up happening is when we have the final list put together, we believe that's going to be around 20 or 23 people.
Awesome.
Then we'll use, of course, ChatGPT to cut that into 23 perfect, you know, 2-sentence segments, and then have everybody lined up and literally just rapid fire down the line, boom, 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 boom. But people that are there, they are going to see the makeup of our area. They're going to see everything, everyone, all the stakeholders, and I'm just really super proud of that, and really, really happy that we can bring that together. The calls that I've made so far for the people that are in town for Saturday the 4th, they are no hesitation. They are like, I am there. I
cool.
can't even think of a cooler thing to be a part of than to get to read part of the Declaration of Independence on the 250th anniversary.
And people are going to hear some music. I know we've got some guests coming out. And what exactly are the timeframes of this event? We're thinking 3 to 4:30, correct?
3 to 4:30. Yep.
And then it's going to lead right into the city celebration, which is going to be happening down that way as well. And then at the end of the night, folks can experience the fireworks from the city of Midland, which is not part of our event, but it's all kind of one thing. And that's what I like is there's a lot of stuff going on for America's 250. And even with us, if you go to maxlovesmidland.com/250, you can see all the different events that are happening. I know there's an awesome one at the library. That one's taking place on the 8th. So if you can't make it out on the 4th, we ask you to go support that one and be a part of this. And I just think it's fantastic for people to have an opportunity to celebrate here in our area in multiple different ways. And I spoke of those fireworks, and you gave me some tidbits about the origins of fireworks, and I don't think people think about it. Like, why do we light off fireworks on the 4th of July?
Yeah, so on July 8th was the first public reading of the Declaration of Independence. So it's the first time it went from Continental Congress out to the general public. And as they publicly read this document, at the end, all these people who, at that time, everybody carried a firearm at the time, they all started shooting off their firearms. So it was bang, 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 bang going off. And ultimately, that led to the celebration every year with the discharge of firearms, signifying, you know, the importance of this. And then it ultimately developed into rockets, and it developed into fireworks. And so I really hope that, you know, whether you're able to join us or not, wherever it is that you're enjoying fireworks, I want you to think about these people in Boston and in Philadelphia in 1776 on July 8th, you know, firing off their firearms in significance of this, and just think about what that really means rather than just looking at the cool colors in the sky.
Awesome. So is there anything else about this event that you want people to know, or you just want to remind them when and where?
Yeah, you know, I think the other couple things that I would add in there that are fairly significant, in addition to the signing of the Declaration and the public reading of the Declaration, I was able to line up an Uncle Sam on stilts. So from 3 to 5, there's going to be an old time Uncle Sam on stilts.
Yeah.
Bring your kids out and let them see what you enjoyed, you know, 50 years ago when that used to kind of be a thing. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then huge shout out to Chemical City Band. Chemical City Band will be playing the music throughout this event. And then also to Gretchen Shope. Gretchen Shope is a Dow High girl, graduated in 2024. She really just took off, and she's been touring all over the country. We're so fortunate that she's back here in Michigan on a break. And she said, I would love to be in Midland to sing the national anthem. So we've got some really cool stuff that's going to happen there between that 3 and 4:30 time frame. And then stay down there, enjoy the food trucks, enjoy everything that the city has going on as well with Stone Street Revival, and then the fireworks. And just one image I want to leave you with, as the fireworks are going off across the river, they will be illuminating this 50-foot tall Declaration of Independence. So you will have an opportunity to see fireworks that are lighting up the Declaration of Independence. And I can't think of anything more spectacular to think about, as we celebrate America's 250.
We hope you enjoyed that clip from the Max Loves Midland Show. If you want to watch the full episode, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to hear that episode, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts.